Welcome to Science Easy Tech channel. In this video, we are going to discuss about proteins. Before moving on to the topic, if you are new to Science Easy Tech channel, just take a moment to subscribe our channel and also to press the notification bell icon in order to get connected with our latest updates. Let's see the contents what we are going to discuss in this video. Proteins, food contents of proteins, requirements of proteins, functions of proteins, protein energy malnutrition or deficiency of proteins, and treatment of protein energy malnutrition. Already in my part 1 video, I have discussed about introduction to proteins, origin and composition of proteins, structure of proteins, as well as classification of proteins. If you have not watched my part 1 video, I have given the link in the description box as well as in the end card. You can watch our nutrition related videos in our channel playlist Bsc Nursing Nutrition First Year. Let's move on to the topic. Do you know that 1 gram of protein on oxidation yields 4 kilocalories? 1 gram of protein on oxidation yields 4 kilocalories. Similarly, carbohydrates also on oxidation 1 gram gives 4 kilocalories, but fat on oxidation 1 gram yields 9 kilocalories. Let's see the food sources of proteins. When it comes to food sources, you have animal sources and plant sources. Most of the animal sources are complete proteins because it contains all the essential amino acids. So the biological value or availability of proteins is going to be great in animal sources. So what are the animal sources? The animal sources are meat, egg, fish, poultry, that is chicken, are very good sources of proteins both in quantity as well as quality. Milk is a valuable source of protein, casein, because although it does not contain a large quantity of protein, the quality of protein whichever is present in milk is going to be very excellent. So the good sources of proteins are legumes, pulses, nuts and oil seeds. So previously they used to say that pulses are poor man's meat. Okay. So good sources of proteins are legumes, pulses, nuts and oil seeds, but their quality is poorer when compared to animal foods. Their quality is also good, but it is when compared to animal proteins, their quality is somewhat poorer. Next, when you are complementing two plant sources, then it becomes the quality is going to get improved. It is going to give a better quality. So in my part 1 video itself, I have discussed about complementary proteins. For example, rice ghee. Rice is mixed with animal protein, that is from milk. You are mixing rice and milk. Pongal. So pongal rice you are cooking with green gram dal. So all vegetables and fruits are poor sources of proteins because mostly in vegetables and fruits they are very rich sources of vitamins and minerals but very poor sources of proteins. Next, we will see the protein contents of foods. Food groups, protein contents in grams per kg. Cereals and millets, it is 16 to 14 grams per kg. Pulses, legumes, that is dry pulses, 18 to 24 grams per kg. Oil seeds and nuts, again it is 18 to 40 grams per kg. Meat, fish and liver, 18 to 20 grams per kilogram. Eggs, 12 to 14 grams per kg. Milk, fresh milk for 100 ml of milk you have 3.5 to 4 grams per kg of protein content. Then milk, whole milk powder, 26 to 28 gram per kg. Milk, skimmed milk. Skimmed milk means you are removing the fat from the milk. That is called as skimmed milk. Whereas in whole milk you are not removing the fat. So in skimmed milk powder you are removing the fat content from the milk. So that is the protein content is 33 to 38 gram per kg. Then vegetables, leafy vegetables 1 to 4 grams per kg, roots and tubers 1 to 1.5 grams per kg, other vegetables 1 to 7 grams per kg. So this is with regard to the protein content of various food groups. Let's see the functions of protein. So proteins play a very major role in body building. So the functions of proteins are very detailedly listed in the following table. So we will see what are all the important functions of proteins. So first function is body building and repair of body tissues. So proteins form an integral part of most body structures such as skin, tendon, membranes, muscles, organs and bones. They support growth and repair of body tissues. The first and foremost function of proteins is body building and repair of body tissues. Next is regulation and of body processes. So proteins are required for highly specialized functions in our body. So what are they? These are immune proteins. So the antibodies which are providing immunity to our body are made up of proteins. So if you want to fight against a disease or if you want to develop resistance to particular disease, it is an immunological response, and these proteins are responsible for the production of antibodies. Next is hormones. So proteins act as hormones such as ACTH and insulin or protein in nature, that is adrenocorticotropic hormones, insulin, they are all proteins. So this will be regulating the body processes. Next, enzymes. All enzymes are protein in nature and are required at every step of digestion, absorption and metabolism of various food substances. So most of the enzymes, all enzymes are protein. Okay. Next is nucleoproteins. So nucleoproteins, so these govern the synthesis of all body proteins. Example, histones, protamines. So they are all nucleoproteins. Next we have contractile proteins. So contractile proteins which helps in the contraction and relaxation of the muscles. That is, for the normal muscle action, some proteins like actin and myosin are responsible. Next is blood proteins. So hemoglobin is a protein which carries oxygen. Okay. So this hemoglobin, which is a protein which carries oxygen and transports oxygen to various parts of the body. Other proteins found in blood are lipoproteins, transferrin will be transferring iron, then serum albumin and immunoglobulin. Serum albumin is also responsible for regulating the osmotic pressure and maintaining the fluid balance in the body. Okay, so this albumin plays a very important role in maintaining the osmotic pressure and also thereby it maintains the fluid balance of the body. Then specific functions. Some amino acids have specific and specialized functions in the body. For example, tryptophan is a precursor of niacin and serotonin. Methionine supplies labile methyl groups for synthesizing choline. So tryptophan, it helps in the formation of niacin and serotonin. So it acts as a precursor. Methionine, it will be supplying methyl groups for synthesizing what? For synthesizing choline, which prevents accumulation of fat in the liver. So the action of choline is preventing accumulation of fat in the liver, and for this we need a special amino acid, that is methionine. Glycine is required for the formation of porphyrin ring of hemoglobin and is an important constituent of nucleic acids also. So glycine helps in the formation of hemoglobin as well as it is an important constituent of nucleic acids. Supply of energy. See, when you are not taking carbohydrates properly, that time protein also gives energy, that is 1 gram of protein on oxidation gives 4 kilocalories of energy. Next is storage. Protein helps to store iron as well as copper in the body. Acid-base balance. Proteins helps to maintain acid-base balance of the body fluids by acting as a buffers. Okay, many proteins will be acting as a buffers, thereby it maintains the fluid balance and acid-base balance in the body. Pregnant and lactating mothers. So proteins provides amino acids for the growth of the fetus in pregnancy and for the production of milk during lactation. So in pregnancy for the growth of the fetus as well as during lactation for the production of milk. So these are the functions of proteins, which is very important. Next we will see the protein requirements. So the protein requirements will be considered based on the following factors of utilization of dietary intake of proteins. So the first factor is going to be caloric intake. For the maximum utilization of dietary proteins, you have to take carbohydrates adequately. You have to take the calories adequately. If the calorie intake is inadequate, that is the carbohydrate is going to be less. In such a time, the proteins, apart from bodybuilding and growth, so what it is going to do? It is going to be utilized for energy. So if you are going to take adequate carbohydrates, protein will be utilized for bodybuilding and repair. But if you are going to take a diet deficient in carbohydrates, or if you are not going to take your calories, carbohydrates properly, what will happen? The protein will be acting as a source of energy. So since the protein is utilized for energy purpose, it will not be utilized for other purpose like bodybuilding. Okay. Next, digestibility coefficient of proteins. In the utilization of dietary proteins, a part of the proteins is lost in digestion and metabolism. I told proteins helps in digestion, absorption and metabolism. So when you are taking proteins, a part of the protein is utilized for this digestion, absorption and metabolism process, that is digestibility coefficient of proteins. Next, biological or nutritive value of proteins. I told if you are going to consume animal sources, it is going to have a complete source of amino acids, essential amino acids. Therefore, the biological quality of animal proteins is more compared to that of plant proteins. So if you are going to take more amount of animal proteins, it is going to give a good quality, high bioavailability of proteins. So when we are giving for growing children, expectant, that is pregnant mothers, and nursing mothers, means lactating mothers or mothers who are breastfeeding their children. So for them and all, you have to give animal sources of proteins like milks, eggs and fleshy fruits. So the protein requirement depends on age and physiological state of the individual. The Indian Council of Medical Research, that is ICMR, has recommended various dietary allowances based on the different age groups. So let's see what it is. So a group the particulars of the requirement of proteins. Next, man. In man, when he is sedentary worker, that is mild worker or moderate worker or heavy worker, the requirement is 60 grams per day. Next, for woman, if she is a sedentary worker or moderate worker or a heavy worker, so for her 55 grams per day. But for pregnant woman, it is 82.2 grams per day. And for lactating mother, immediately after delivery, from 0 to 6 months after delivery, when she is lactating, it is 77.9 grams per day. And for lactating mother 6 to 12 months, it is 70.2 grams per day. So these requirements are given by Indian Council of Medical Research. Then for infants, so for infants first 0 to 6 months, it is 1.16 gram per kg per day, and this is mostly met by the breast milk if it is sufficient. And for infants 6 to 12 months, 1.69 gram per kg per day. And for children 1 to 3 years, it is 16.7 grams per day, and 4 to 6 years it is 20.1 grams per day, and for 7 to 9 years it is 29.5 grams per day. And for boys in the age group of 10 to 12 years, it is 39.9 grams per day, and for girls 10 to 12 years, it is 40.4 grams per day, and for boys 13 to 15 years, it is 54.3 grams per day, and for girls 13 to 15 years, it is 51.9 grams per day, and boys 16 to 70 years 61.5 grams per day, and girls 16 to 17 years, it is 55.5 grams per day. So slowly, gradually, for children the requirement is increasing. Okay, so this is with regard to Indian Council of Medical Research recommended daily intake for proteins. Then effects of protein deficiency. Diseases due to the deficiency of proteins as well as calories occur commonly among weaned infants. Weaned infants is mothers who are breastfeeding the child, who are not breastfeeding the child after 6 months, or who are not starting weaning food should be started for a child after 6 months of delivery. Okay, the infants who is above 6 months of age, so for them, along with the breast milk, you have to start weaning food. Suppose if you are not going to start, the child can go in for protein energy malnutrition. So this is mostly seen in weaned infants and preschool children, that is under 5 children. It is more common in India and other developing countries. So let's see what is protein energy malnutrition. Protein energy malnutrition is defined as a range of pathological conditions arising from lack of varying proportions of protein and calorie. So the diet is deficient in protein as well as the diet is deficient in calorie. That is, you are not getting adequate carbohydrates, adequate fats and adequate proteins also. Okay, so occurring most frequently in infants and young children and often associated with infection. So along with this protein energy malnutrition, the child will also have infection. So this definition is given by WHO in the year 1973. Protein energy malnutrition affects children under 5 years of age belonging to poor and underprivileged communities. So children who are very poor, and who are underprivileged, it is more seen under 5 years of age children. So undernutrition is a complex condition with multiple deficiencies such as protein, energy and micronutrients like minerals and vitamins often occurring together. According to WHO, malnutrition is an underlying factor in over 50% of the 10 to 11 million yearly deaths of children under 5 years. So many children are dying due to undernutrition. So approximately WHO is telling that 10 to 11 million yearly deaths are reported due to undernutrition. See how pathetic the condition is. So classification of protein energy malnutrition can be classified as Kwashiorkor, Marasmus and marasmic Kwashiorkor. So let's see the first picture is Kwashiorkor and the next picture is Marasmus. So let's see what is the causes of protein energy malnutrition. So protein energy malnutrition is prevalent in almost all parts of the world and also in all age groups. So it mainly occurs in young children who live in poverty. In India, protein energy malnutrition occurs among preschool children, that is under 5 children, due to poverty and due to malnutrition or undernutrition. A majority of them suffer from various degrees of malnutrition, that is undernutrition. So the paths leading from early weaning to nutritional marasmus and from the protracted breastfeeding to Kwashiorkor is schematically presented as in the following diagram. So how this breastfeeding. So first, early abrupt weaning. So you are giving weaning foods at an early stage, that is before 6 months also if you are starting, or you are stopping the breastfeeding and you are starting with the weaning. So you are giving dilute formula, or you are giving very dilute milk or dilute milk, then whatever you are giving, the food is very diluted, and also you are preparing in an unhygienic way, that is dilute dirty formula they are telling. Okay, in an unhygienic way you are preparing, and repeated infection, especially gastroenteritis. Repeatedly the person is going in for infection, that is gastroenteritis, and this leads to starvation. Okay, gastroenteritis, diarrhea, so the person is going for starvation therapy, that is nutritional marasmus. The child is having marasmus, so the child becomes very weak, thin, like that. Next, late gradual weaning. So late gradual weaning means you are continuing with breastfeeding, okay, for a prolonged period. So see, after 6 months they are telling up to 6 months exclusive breastfeeding is enough after childbirth, but after 6 months along with the breast milk you have to start with weaning. Suppose if the mother is not starting the weaning procedure, so that's time the person is taking starchy family diet. The carbohydrates is more but the protein content is less in the diet. The person can go in for, or acute infection, along with acute infection can lead to Kwashiorkor. So when both marasmus and Kwashiorkor is there, it comes under marasmic Kwashiorkor. So next we will see the clinical signs and symptoms of protein energy malnutrition. So first is Kwashiorkor. So this disease was first identified in children in Africa by Dr. Cicely Williams in the year 1935. It is caused by only deficiency of proteins only. When both proteins or calories are deficient, it comes under marasmus. But here only protein deficiency is seen. The symptoms are growth failure. The growth will not be proper. The edema of the face and the lower limbs, facial edema as well as pedal edema. edema, lower limbs edema will be there, that is accumulation of fluid in the interstitial spaces. Next, muscle wasting will be there, the muscles will be wasted, there will be fatty liver, okay, fat will be accumulated in the liver and the liver will become enlarged, anorexia, loss of appetite will be there, diarrhea, change in the color, sparse, soft and thin hair. The hair will be very thin. The color will be like copper color, copper red, we used to say the hair will be in that color. Then change in the color of the skin. The skin can be hypopigmented or hyperpigmented. Anemia will be there. Vitamin A deficiency will be there. Then angular stomatitis, that is in the corner of the mouth there will be cracks and sore in the corner of the mouth or lips. Chelosis, inflammation and cracking of the lips is called as stenosis. And the child, because of facial edema, the child face will be round, that is moon face. Next, marasmus. This is caused by both deficiency of proteins as well as calories in the diet. So the person will be having severe wasting of muscles, loss of subcutaneous fat. The limbs appear as skin and bones. The child will be looking very bony. Okay. So next, skin is dry and the muscles will become atrophic. Okay. Degeneration will be taking place. Anemia, eye lesions due to vitamin A deficiency, irritability and fretfulness, that is irritability will be there, and diarrhea is a most common thing what will be occurring due to infection. Dehydration, due to diarrhea, dehydration. Then body temperature is subnormal, failure to thrive. If not treated, the child may not survive. Then the child will be looking like a old man. The skin and all will lose its lustrosity and the skin will be lose its elasticity and it has a wrinkled skin, and the child will become very underweight. Okay. Next is Marasmus Kwashiorkor, that is child suffering from the disease which shows signs of both Kwashiorkor and Marasmus. Next, difference between Kwashiorkor and Marasmus. So Kwashiorkor. So what is the difference between Kwashiorkor and Marasmus? It develops in children whose diets are deficient in only protein. Marasmus, both protein and caloric deficiency will be there. So Kwashiorkor is seen from children between 6 months and 3 years of age. Marasmus is common in infants under 1 year, that is in infants under 1 year of age. Subcutaneous fat is preserved in Kwashiorkor. Subcutaneous fat is also lost in Marasmus. Edema is present in Kwashiorkor, but edema is absent in Marasmus. The children will be having enlarged fatty liver in Kwashiorkor. In Marasmus, no fatty liver. In Kwashiorkor, the ribs are not very prominent. In Marasmus, the ribs will become very prominent. In Kwashiorkor, the child will be lethargic, that is tired and weak. The Marasmus, the child will be alert, but the child will have irritation. Then in Kwashiorkor, there will be mild or no muscle wasting. In Marasmus, there will be severe muscle wasting. In Kwashiorkor, there will be poor appetite. In Marasmus, the child will have a appetite, but feeding will not be there because of poverty or anything. Okay. Next, the person suffering from Kwashiorkor needs adequate amount of proteins, but here the person suffering from Marasmus should need both proteins as well as fats, carbohydrates, everything the child will be needing. So this is the difference between Kwashiorkor and Marasmus. Next, treatment of protein energy malnutrition. So children with severe protein energy malnutrition are often seriously ill, so they should be admitted into the hospital for the treatment of life-threatening problems. Specific deficiencies should be corrected and metabolic abnormalities also should be corrected. So when the child's condition is stable and the appetite has returned, so when you are giving treatment within 2 to 7 days, the child's condition will be getting improved. So that treatment can be continued even outside the hospital also after a week of treatment in hospital. So hospital-based management, first you have to correct dehydration. Diarrhea is the cause for dehydration, so which is very fatal. So you have to, skin elasticity is poor in children with marasmus and their eyes will be normally sunken. So unlike Kwashiorkor, the altered skin elasticity is masked by edema. So in Kwashiorkor also the child may be having dehydration, but because of edema you may think that the child's skin is normal, the child is not dehydrated. So but you have to think that even in Kwashiorkor, because of edema only the skin elasticity is like that, but even they are also having dehydration like marasmus. So patients with mild to moderate dehydration can be treated with oral or nasogastric administration of fluids. Next, infection. How you can correct infection? So infection can lead to death in protein energy malnutrition. So it is difficult to detect infection clinically as fever and rapid pulse rate will not be present in severe malnourished patients. So you cannot see the important fever, pulse rate increase, that and all will be absent in severely malnourished individuals. Since infection is common, you have to give antibiotics, broad spectrum antibiotics like amoxicillin, ampicillin can be given. Then intestinal infections like ascariasis, that is worm infestation, can be treated by giving deworming agents. Next is hypoglycemia. So children may develop hypoglycemia due to low carbohydrate content. So the children may develop fits due to hypoglycemia also. So in mild cases, oral administration of 50 ml of hypertonic glucose, that is 10% glucose, may be sufficient. Okay, 50 ml of 10% glucose can be given. If the child develops convulsions, that is fits, or if the child becomes unconscious, then you have to give 10% glucose should be given intravenously. So first I told orally itself you can give. Suppose if the child is unconscious or if the child develops fits, you have to give intravenous 10% glucose. That is the calculation of the dose is 5 ml per kg of the child, followed by 50 ml of 10% glucose by nasogastric tube. Next, hypothermia. So marasmic children are more prone to have low body temperature. If the room is cold, the child should be properly covered with a blanket. The child can develop a state of shock which should be treated with intravenous injection of glucose, saline, or sometimes even blood transfusion. Next is anemia. Severe anemia is dangerous as it can result in heart failure in the children nor in the person. So if the hemoglobin level falls below 5 gram per deciliter, definitely you have to go for blood transfusion. Next, moving on to dietary management. So although treatment of complications can reduce mortality, proper dietary management is important for a complete recovery. The child should be given a diet providing sufficient quantities of both proteins as well as calories, that is carbohydrates and fats, in gradually increasing amounts without provoking. So slowly you have to increase. On one day itself you should not correct everything. Slowly you have to gradually correct to prevent nausea, vomiting or diarrhea. So it is best to begin with liquid formula. First to begin with liquid formula because the person can easily take it and digestion also will be easy. Initially the child may refuse the feeds due to anorexia or lack of appetite. As the appetite improves, the child will be started taking foods by mouth. Solid supplements can be introduced. The diet should be given frequently in small amounts. Okay. So high energy intakes, that is 150 kilocal per kg, and high protein intake 3 to 4 gram per kg are required for rapid recovery. Most hospitals used milk based formulas for feeding malnourished children. Either fresh milk you can give or you can give skimmed milk because milk is a complete protein, so can be used for preparing the formula. It's a complete food also. Then sugar and vegetable oils are added to increase the energy content. In older children, an entirely liquid diet is not necessary, so you can give some semi-solid and solid foods. Then a mixed cereal based diet can be given with added oil to improve the energy requirement. Next, if the patient is having protein deficiency, calorie deficiency, the person is definitely going to have, the child is going to have vitamin and mineral deficiency also. So vitamin and mineral supplements should be given for all malnourished children. Daily supplements of iron and folic acid. So iron you have to give 60 milligram per day and folic acid you have to give 1 microgram per day should be given to correct anemia along with multivitamin preparation. Daily supplements of iron should be given 60 milligram per day and folic acid 1 microgram per day to correct anemia, as well as multivitamin preparations you can give. So in multivitamin preparations itself, this iron and folic acid also will be there sometimes. Okay. So multivitamin preparations along with iron and folic acid also can be given. Next, for example, Zincovit, which has all these supplements. Next, with this treatment, clinical improvement is seen within a week. The child becomes alert and the appetite improves. Edema disappears in about 7 to 10 days. During this period, there may be some weight loss, but thereafter, the child will be starting to gain weight. After the child is discharged from the hospital, he should be followed up in the outpatient clinic or at home till he reaches normal weight for height. So you can use low cost recipes for children recovering from protein energy malnutrition like ragi, green gram, jaggery. You can make a puttu and you can give it up. Similarly, ragi, Bengal gram, wheat puttu, then wheat, rava, green gram dal, vegetable upma can be done. Rice, green gram dal, pongal or khichdi can be done. With rice and Bengal gram, you can prepare your porridge and you can give. Hope this video gives a detailed explanation about proteins. So you can watch part 1 and part 2 video which has been displayed in this end card as well as in the description box. You can watch my previous videos link in our channel, as well as I have given most of the link in description box also. So if you like my video, please give a thumbs up, share and subscribe to Science Easy Tech channel. Still, if you have any doubts, feel free to post your doubts in the comment section. Keep supporting to Science Easy Tech channel.